Hey guys, Miss Hill here. First screencast-o-matic, we're going to be talking about appeasement and the start of World War II. There may be a few bumps along the way, but I'm going to do my best. First, I want to review, let's talk about the Treaty of Versailles and the regulations that they put on Germany. Remember that Germany was asked to accept all the blame for World War I. They were forced to pay $30 billion in reparations to the big three. Remember, that's Britain, France, and the United States. Germany lost a lot of territory. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. The Rhineland, which is between France and Germany, was to be demilitarized. And also, Germany was forced to limit their armed forces. That was to 100,000 men, and they were not to have aircraft and submarines. You guys remember what happened with the submarines. All right, next we're going to take a look at this picture. I just want you to take a moment to envision this scene in your local Harris Teeter. All right, now let's think. What might the parent who sees this child that is so down and determined that they want a giant size bag of Starbursts, what might this parent be thinking? Go ahead and think about that. So the parent has a few choices here. They can decide that they are going to stick to their guns and they are not going to give this child that huge bag of sugary Starbursts that they are crying and pleading for. Or they can decide that in order to avoid more conflict, possibly more embarrassment, because remember, this is the middle of the Harris Teeter, that they're going to do what is called appease their child. That means that they're going to give in and kind of give them what they want in order to avoid this conflict. So, when we talk about appeasement, remember, that is going to mean giving in to avoid conflict. So let's look at how this happens in Germany with Hitler. All right, 1933, we talked about Adolf Hitler becoming the chancellor. There were many steps that took him there. He decides that he wants living space for the Germans. Now I'm going to click on this little link here and talk to you about living space for the Germans. All right, I'm kind of only showing you part of this here, but between 1871 and 1918, Germany had this region here, which comprised a part of Belgium, the Czech Republic, Denmark, France, Lithuania, the Netherlands, Poland, and Russia. So after World War I, they decreased their living space significantly. Hitler was determined to, how might I say this, expand their living space to what their German Empire once had. So here's Hitler looking over a map, possibly discussing this living space. Hitler makes this clear, and in 1933, no European leaders act upon his determination for this living space. Next, we'll see that in 1935, Hitler announces the expansion of his military. He expands that military 6 times the number that he is permitted by the Treaty of Versailles. That would be about 600,000. Again, leaders, democratic leaders, do not act on this action by Hitler. Here's a picture of him building up his army. Next, Hitler takes a bigger step, something that is possibly more aggressive. He sends forces to occupy the Rhineland, which, as you can see, is this kind of yellow and orange color here. It is between France, Belgium, and Germany. So he sends some of his forces there, claiming that he's feeling threatened. And here's a picture of that. Next, 1938, this is the year before the war. Germany decides that he wants to, what we call, annex Austria. Austria had a lot of Germans, and again, this was another thing that he was forbade to do by the Treaty of Versailles. Here he is, coming through the streets of Austria. Then we have, again, 1938, another move to take over yet again more land. Hitler says that he is going to make one more demand for territory, and that is going to be to take what is called the Sudetenland. This is part of Czechoslovakia. So you can see that over here on my screen. However, this land was home to a lot of Czechoslovakia's coal. That's 66%, 70% of their iron and steel, and 70% of their electrical power. So even though it appears that he's taking this small portion, it really holds their most valuable resources. So without those resources, the Czech nation is basically unable to operate. So what are these leaders going to do about Adolf Hitler? So they make a decision that they're going to have the Munich Conference. So in September of 1938, a meeting is held. France, England, and Italy. Czechoslovakia does not attend, and they do decide that Germany is allowed to annex the Sudetenland. Here is some of the results. So first, we have Chamberlain. He's the English leader at the time. He believes that this will bring peace. He says, I have met with Hitler, and he agrees to peace in our time if we give him the Sudetenland. Now we have peace. We know that's not what's going to happen. Result 2. Czechoslovakia, they lose the Sudetenland. This is a very famous image of right after Hitler takes over that area, people hailing Hitler. Result 3, the next year, Germany invades Poland. He does not stand up to that promise that he is done taking over territory, and World War II begins. Lastly, England, not satisfied with this agreement with the Munich Conference, Churchill is the new British Prime Minister. Let's take a look at what Churchill has to say. Appeasement is like feeding a dragon, hoping he will eat you last. I think that's a really, really interesting quote from Winston Churchill here. Lastly, I want to end with Franklin Roosevelt, our U.S. president's remarks. America is isolationist and wants to avoid another deadly war. However, we must help our allies. So that brings us just to the start of World War II. What you're going to be doing in your activity today is based on your knowledge of appeasement and what's going on in Europe and around the world. You are going to be looking at some cartoons from a very famous guy who you may know, Dr. Seuss. So you will choose a cartoon and fill out the analysis that corresponds with that. And what you guys are actually going to be turning into me today is the analysis. You may be turning that into your social studies teacher if your social studies teacher is not me. I hope you guys enjoyed my first screencast. Look forward to seeing you guys next time.